Games where you have to survive in a hostile open-world environment full of enemies and wildlife, starting with nothing and making your way up while monitoring health and hydration are so fun and satisfactory. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is Gromo, and today we have a list of the best open-world survival PS4 games of 2021. And before we get into it, make sure to join the channel and subscribe. Leave a like and a nice comment down below, and I might feature your comment in a future video. Anyways, without further delay, number 1 is Sons of the Forest. Sons of the Forest is an upcoming open-world survival craft game, and it's the sequel of the first game The Forest, a first-person game in which the player finds himself in a strange island full of cannibals and monsters after a plane crash, and he must scavenge resources, build a base, and survive by fighting enemy monsters, crafting weapons, setting traps, and hiding in the forest, while searching for clues to escape the island. This sequel will feature better enemy AI, better graphics, and better story that I am excited for. Sons of the Forest will be released later this year in the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 and PC. Next on the list, number 2 is Vigor. Vigor is a free-to-play open-world survival looter-shooter game in which players have to remain alive and build a shelter to protect themselves from the hostile environments. In Vigor, players have to participate in an open-world-like battles against other players in order to find resources, food, weapons, and better equipment. During the match, the player can take two play routes: either use stealth to loot the maximum resources and leave the area as soon as possible, or to take the messy route and fight opponents to loot their remains. It's up to the player to choose one of them. Vigor was released last December for free, and it's a solid game with very good graphics to pass time with. Next, number 3 is Rust. Rust Console Edition is a multiplayer survival open-world game that was initially released on PC in 2014. And because of the huge success on PC and after 6 years, they decided to make a console edition that was released on May of this year. Rust's goal is to survive after starting from scratch with nothing but a rock, by gathering or stealing resources and building a base, while also effectively managing hunger, thirst, and health. And despite the existence of aggressive creatures such as bears and wolves that try to kill you every time you encounter them, the greatest danger to the player is other players, whose needs are the same as yours. The game can be played solo or in teams of 4 players, and is actually one of the best open-world survival multiplayer games of all time. Next game, number 4, is Green Hell. Green Hell is a survival open-world first-person shooter that can be played solo or in co-op multiplayer mode, in which the player must collect raw materials and food while also crafting objects and shelters to ensure their survival. The game also has a story, in which the player begins in an isolated jungle camp with his wife, who later disappeared after going on a solo trip to the tribal village, and the player have to find her and save her while also making sure he survives in the harsh forest that is full of wild animals and enemies. And similar to the previous game, Green Hell was out for a while now on PC, and on June 2021 was released on consoles including PlayStation 4. Next, number 5 is Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 is a zombie survival game set in a huge urban open-world city located in Europe, where players can freely roam. The map, which is 4 times the size of the first Dying Light, is divided into 7 separate areas, each with its own unique set of landmarks and locations. Parkour allows players to gather various scraps and resources for crafting new goods and weapons while exploring the city to fight zombies and other human enemies. Throughout the narrative, the player will encounter many groups and communities, and will be required to make decisions and take sides that will later alter the state of the game's world and change the story. While making this video, Dying Light 2 developers announced that the game will be delayed to February 2022. You know, it is what it is. The game will still be included in this list, and probably next year's as well. Next, number 6 is Subnautica Below Zero. Subnautica Below Zero is a survival adventure open-world game played from a first-person view. The player takes control of a scientist who travels a frozen planet in a quest to find about a research team that vanished there. The player's aim is to explore the surroundings and survive in the alien world while also completing tasks and advancing in the story. Players may collect materials, create tools, construct bases, and interact with the planet's creatures. The game takes place mostly underwater, but there are major land-based places to explore in the game's world. There are additional explorable buildings to uncover both above ground and underwater that serve as both key locations for the storyline and blueprints for crafting. Next, number 7 is Wild Side. The plot of the game takes us to 1980s, where players take control of a pilot, and due to the bad weather conditions, the player loses control and goes into a spin. He quickly loses speed and eventually collides with the trees of a nearby forest, losing consciousness in a place surrounded by wild environment and abandoned by humanity. After a while, he recovers and understands what happened to him. He is in a damaged airplane in the middle of the woods, and the radio station he might use to call for help is not working. To preserve his life, the player has to go on a difficult journey throughout the unknown forest to find food and shelter, and also resources to repair the radio station and be saved. Next, number 8 is Smalland. Smalland is an open-world sandbox multiplayer survival game where the player takes control of a tiny human surrounded by massive creatures and at the bottom of the food chain, where he has to craft weapons and armor, build bases, and defend himself against bigger creatures. Survive the danger of Smalland's world, from the living animals to the challenging weather. Most of the creatures like birds, rats, lizards, and spiders will see you as a tasty food, and you have to be well equipped in order to fight back and survive. Weather conditions and seasons are also a challenge, as this is not only affect your health but also dynamically change the world around you. The game can be played solo or with friends in a co-op PvE environment. Smalland will be released in October 2021 for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. Next, number 9 is Breathedge. This game is a survival, open-world adventure story-driven game that will trap players in a vast field of space wreckage with nothing but an immortal chicken as company. It's like Subnautica, but instead of an ocean, there is space. And different from other games on the list, instead of punching trees and fighting for resources, players will navigate a zero-gravity environment in order to find supplies, craft tools, and survive in space, all while trying to advance in the game story and find out about the truth behind the crash of the biggest space station in history. Breathedge was released 6th of April for consoles, and it's a different kind of survival game that players may like or may absolutely hate. And finally, number 10 is Prey for the Gods. Prey for the Gods is an action-adventure survival open world where the player character begins his adventures stranded in a frozen island with only clothes in her bag. She must scavenge for resources to craft weapons, food and useful tools, and items to survive the frozen landscape. After some exploration, players must track down giant creatures, figuring out how to climb their massive bodies and eliminate them in order to advance in the plot. During the game, players will also encounter different types of enemies, and they must defend themselves while also monitoring their health, stamina, and hunger. And before we finish our video, I want to mention a bonus game, which is Away. Away is an upcoming indie action-adventure survival open-world game that lets you take control of a tiny creature in a huge world, and you have to survive and stay alive while also exploring the world and progressing in the game's story. Away is scheduled to be released in September 2022 for PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox One. And that's it for today. If you want to support our work, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. And as always, stay home, stay safe, play games, and peace out.